to Session 3 of Shadows of the Ancients, called The Quiet Keeps. You are tuning in now to hear the recap from Michael first. So I'm going to turn it over to him.
So, in our first session, we were stationed at a Convoker base that got out of nowhere attacked by a mismatch of mysterious men and monsters. And we were told by our commanding officer to take the Professor Imran Gray of the Convokers to their main capital, because he knows something of extreme importance. However, injured from the fighting, we stopped at the house of Olbin in the village of Dakta, who gave us security and somewhere to lay low with our enemies everywhere. And so we spent that last session searching for someone that could help get us out of there. Ithar, the Wayfinder. So many more of us were injured, leaving us even a little bit weaker than we already were. And we ended up encountering Kalash, the Pale Orc, the Pale Hunter, who, has sent out his hunters to find us as we sail through the swamps, especially dangerous part of them, to hopefully safety.
And safety comes in rare occasion in the Quiet Keeps, in this section of the swamp. And the groans and the grunts are enough to break whatever hope of silence you might have traveling through the water, as Darius lies on his back in this folding canoe, this boat that Ithar carried with her. And you can see where the arrow pierced his shoulder, where it dug down between the bones, and now it hangs limp and useless on his side. Emran kind of leans over you, and he's holding what were his sleeves, pressing them into the wound. Darius, how are you responding to this?
I think it definitely be sort of a pained resignation. Like, he is definitely loudly complaining while they do this, like just sort of not really screaming, but more sort of loudly bemoaning the fact that just these things keep happening to him in particular.
And everyone would kind of be leaning over you, just be quiet, calm down. Shh. Ithar said we need to be quiet here. There's a reason why they call these the Quiet Keeps. If you make any noise, apparently it's bad news, so shh.
Fine, but you're not exactly in my position.
And he kind of frowns and he says, be that as it may, I'm trying to help. He kind of presses the rag down. You complain more than my son. And he's pushing it down into the wound, kind of holding it there, trying to staunch the flow of blood.
Be a little careful. Where did you learn your trade?
Well, reading books mostly. This is the first time I've had to do this.
Okay. I think I'm good, though I'm not really looking. As he kind of, he's clutching the side of the boat, maybe he's just kind of staring up at the top of the trees in the swamp. Not really noticing how much he's actually bleeding.
Yeah, he would kind of kind of hold this against your arm and say, okay, hold this down, and move towards the front of the boat where Fulgrim, you now have a piece of gauze kind of like wrapped against the side of your jaw. He kind of walks up and kind of peels it away a little bit and grimaces and puts it back. And he says, well, at least most of the tendon and muscle are intact. How are you holding up?
Better than the rest of my party, it looks. I'll be all right. Worry about the others.
He would just kind of nod to you, and he'd reach into his pack and pull out some more of that rot weed and hand it to you and says, I could chew on this. This is all we've got. And he'd walk back to the back of the boat with his hands stained red and sit down next to Sebastian and kind of like bury his head in his hands, not able to do more.
Sebastian would kind of look over to him, seeing him a little bit defeated, and just be like, you're doing well. Don't get discouraged yet. We've been through a lot already.
A lot's an understatement. I mean, you three have almost died. Is that 2 times, 3 times now? I can't even keep track.
I personally try to not keep track. Makes it a little easier to think about, or I guess not think about.
Well, I say we go for a record.
We might get a record if we keep up this rate. And he would look back at Ithar, who's kind of, she's got like the keel of the boat kind of steering it with a rudder. And Brif has one of the poles pushing off the bottom of the swamp to keep him moving forward. Okay, we're almost to the edge of the keep. Once we get there, poles up in the boat, we won't be using the rudder either. It's dangerous to do any sort of surface movement here, so I'll be using one of the Wayfinder tools. Is that understood? She kind of looks over at you, Brif.
Hey, you're the one who knows how to sail.
She would nod. With any luck, the orcs won't know this. Maybe we'll get a couple of them caught up in some of the wildlife might be coming for them.
Sebastian would look to her and be like, so what is this quiet keeps? And what do we have to be worried about?
Well, I mean, there's lots of belief around the quiet keeps. I mean, one thing's for sure, though. The people who used to live here, House Locke, they played around with something that they shouldn't have. It's said that they used to all just be here, and then Wayfinders used to use this place as a station, a place to rest up before moving on. But now, well, you'll see. It's changed. It's tattered, broken. And the sleepers, well, I don't know what they are. There's lots of theories about what they are, but personally, I think it's whatever happened to the people who used to live there. If we're lucky, we won't run into any.
Oh, sleepers, they don't sound so bad.
They don't sound bad because they don't make sound. If you have ever seen something that looks so alien that it shouldn't belong on this world, that's the best I can sum up a sleeper. All I can say is be very quiet. They don't have eyes. They hear, though, and smell.
Sebastian gives like a nervous swallow, and as he does so, it reminds him of the bandage he has wrapped around his chest as his internal injury aches, and he's reminded of that, and actually looks over to Fulgrim, who has been carrying the alcohol, which has helped a bit, and he's just kind of like looking over to see if he has any, but decides not to ask.
As Sebastian does so, I imagine Darius sort of shakily sit up, and what he'd do is he'd maybe sort of wave over basically anyone that's close to him and just whisper, I need some rotweed. And as he would presume they would go get some or something or other, he begins to, with his one good arm, he begins to sort of unstrap the straps of his armor and sort of mutters aloud as he does so. I hardly think this will allow me to move quietly, so I'd better keep it in storage for now. And he just basically spend his time sort of with one arm, just trying his best to remove as much armor plating as possible, so he can actually move stealthily.
She kind of like looks at you as you're removing all this. I suppose we've got some canvas or something that we can pad it with. Does anyone have extra space in their bags?
It's at that point that Sebastian kind of pulls out his bag that he's been working on since you have basically known him, and it's this ratty, like, little knapsack looking thing that you wouldn't think anyone has put any effort into it, but all through the months of training as a Convoker initiate, you'd see Sebastian constantly working at this bag, and near its completion, he kind of looks and holds the bag, and is no more than like a small backpack size, but he kind of looks and says, yeah, I think I might have some room. And then would hold the bag towards you. And I imagine the armor is probably like double its size, maybe.
Yeah, something like that. I imagine he's just sort of maybe removing a gauntlet or two and getting out the greaves, the easy parts first. He sort of drops a couple in, is already sort of a third full. So probably.
And as you do, though, the strange thing that you would find is as the first kind of bracer and greaves drop in, it just kind of sinks into the bag, and you're looking at it, expecting it to already be full, but it's almost as if you haven't put anything in there. Sebastian kind of peeks it open and just, seems to be working. All right, the breastplate now.
And Darius would sort of give an uncharacteristic, like a small smirk, as he continues to remove his armor, but after sort of the majority of it is off, he pats at your shoulder and goes, "Nice working, Willicker."
Kind of nods at you. I can't believe this actually works, but right, this is, yeah, it was nothing. And he kind of just nervously crams this giant breast piece into his small ratty knapsack, and you just see it disappear and not even show a sign of it being full, as he's finally worked long enough now to complete his first item that he's crafted, which is a bag of holding.
Ithar kind of like looks at you as you're just stuffing stuff into this bag. And where did you come across a bag connected to the bleak? Well, rather a space in the bleak.
Sorry, what do you mean? I made this bag.
Her eyes would kind of go wide for a second. You see her eyebrows go up, and this is rare. Ithar never really shows tons of emotion besides just stoic like focus. And she kind of just like her eyes widen, and she kind of mutters under her breath, "Interesting, very curious," and kind of continues leading the boat along. Kind of like you see her like thinking about something, like she's focused in the distance, not on you guys anymore.
Yeah, and Sebastian's pretty much equally as intrigued. Like he's looking at the bag and kind of open it up and stick his hand in occasionally and pull out one of the bracers and put it back in. He'd turn it upside down and like shake it and see what happens. And he's trying to figure it out too. He's kind of surprised that he actually made something like this. But
I want you to roll me a dex check as you kind of just like start shaking the bag.
all right, let's do it. Just the check.
Everything explodes at the end.
That would be a 13.
Only just barely, almost as if the bag spat something out. A gauntlet comes shooting out, and you manage to grab it before it like gets too far away from you, out into the water.
Ooh. Okay. Note to self: don't do that.
And the bag starts to vibrate and rumble, and you hear metal shifting around inside of it.
I imagine it has like one of those like drawstrings on the top of it that you can just pull and it like tightens
like a hobo bag, basically.
Yeah, basically he has a hobo bag.
Okay.
So if it starts shaking around, he would instantly kind of pull it tightly, just nervously, and then holding on to it. Is it still shaking?
Yeah, you hear like a bunch of metal slamming into like the entrance as if it's trying to spit it out.
He gives the group like a nervous look, but like it's that kind of, he's trying to be reassuring, like he knows what's going on, but you can clearly tell that he's like doesn't know what's going on. And he's just kind of like, hey, yeah, this is going well, guys. How long until we're through the quiet keeps?
We'll be at the first waypoint, and she kind of looks up at the sun, kind of is just drifting lazily over the fog. Maybe 15, 20 minutes. We'll be at the first waypoint. She kind of looks over her shoulder. Earlier, when you first started, you could hear them still back behind you, the splashing of oars and the shouting of orcs. But the sound has gotten more and more distant as you've gone on. And she would kind of look over at you, Brif, and kind of just nod. Okay, pulls up.
Yeah, he'd pull it up and maybe slide it along the edge, the side of the boat, or right next to him, so if he needs to pull it out again, just quick little grab in the water.
Okay. Yeah, so you see her like untie like a rope that was around her waist, and she reaches into her bag and she comes out with this like 4-piece hook, except for the 4 pieces, like they're all facing the same way. They look like a claw almost. And she ties this on to the end of the rope, and she pulls the rudder up and into the boat, and she says, all right, everybody get down. This is a little bit dangerous if you're standing. And she starts to spin it over her head, and she unleashes it forward and hooks it on the edge of a tree and then pulls you guys towards that tree. And then she unhooks it from that tree and then spins it around and throws it towards the next tree and pulls you guys towards that tree. And the first thing you notice as the pole comes up and the rudder comes up is that it gets deathly silent. The only sound is the sound of the spinning rope over the head and the occasional as it hooks into a tree, and then her sliding her hands along the rope. That's it.
Well, I guess we know why they call it the Quiet Keeps.
That's for damn
Yeah,
sure.
I thought it might be a bit louder than this. I was expecting some howling banshees or something.
Well, maybe we'd have to go to the Screeching Keeps, if there are such a thing. And
I'm sure of it. Somewhere.
Yeah, as you're lying on your back, Darius, so you're looking up in the foliage, and you see a bird. It's a pale white bird. Its eyes are kind of like this really deep blue-gray, kind of looking down at you as you pass beneath it. And it doesn't make a sound. There's no fluttering of wings, no screeching, nothing. It just looks at you as you go past. And then you even see its head turn and watch you as you keep going.
there'd be a short narrowing of the eyes as I silently note that not even the wildlife in this just where you'll presume there would at least be the flap of wings. No, this is just absolute silence. And I decide that making any kind of substantial noise is probably not going to be worthwhile, so talking probably going to be kept to a minimum from him. and he's sort of exactly inclined for everybody to do the same, just sort of keep it low.
Yeah, you pass all manner of kind of like mounds sticking up out of the water, floating logs that kind of just shift past the boat, just all manner of just everything just floating in this water, and it's murky. You can't see anything. But as you continue making your way along, occasionally, once maybe, you hear off in the distance some sort of a shriek, like it almost sounds like a human scream, and then splashing water, as if something is swimming or trying to swim. And Ithar whispers, "Don't be fooled. Over centuries, these creatures have learned what gets travelers to come close." And she spins it and hooks it onto the next tree and pulls you along.
Sebastian would nod.
Brif would
he's-
probably.
Go ahead.
You keep going. Yeah, Brif would probably look in the direction of these sounds, curious to see what they might be, but by not taking the actual action, trusting that the Wayfinder knows what she's talking about.
And yeah, Sebastian's not making a peep. He is probably quite terrified. He's been through a lot, and he would like nothing more than for this quiet keeps to just be a quiet stroll down the river. So he's actually just laying down also, and just probably like closing his eyes and just praying that nothing happens.
Yeah, as you're making your way along, just that steady, just at one point something bumps the bottom of the boat, and she stops spinning it overhead and just catches the rope and just stands there. And then after a minute or two, she starts spinning again and moving you guys along. And eventually, you see what appears to be like a bunch of sunken buildings. And as you look at them, they're broken, they're crumbling, they're falling apart. Many pieces of flagstone are kind of torn from the walls and fallen into the murky deep. You see tattered golden gray banners with a black sun eclipsed by a white moon. There are vines that have overgrown everything, and again, it is just silent. And as you make your way towards this keep, she whispers, "That's the first waypoint. Keep your wits about you. Once we get to the keep, any talking is a whisper. Understand?" And she looks to each of you to make sure that you got that. She nods. Good. And she spins the hook one last time and attaches it onto what appears to have been a window and pulls you guys up to the window. Okay, all in one at a time. I'll pull the boat in after us. Go.
Brif would probably be one of the first ones in there so he can help everyone else in.
And I imagine as Brif sort of takes point, Darius would make a conscious decision to sort of push maybe Fulgrim or Sebastian go first before him, basically. Making sure if Brif is taking point, he's sort of taking back.
I would wait for Fulgrim to actually go ahead of me.
Fulgrim would just sort of pull himself over the windowsill and just slump down on the inside, moving away from the where people drop down.
And yeah, as Fulgrim sort of makes it through, Darius sort of he practically grabs Sebastian by the shoulder and sort of nudges him towards the window, like trying sort of like that motion you do when a kid is being stubborn and you want him to go into the store and be a good and just sort of wait.
Yeah, and he kind of like not on purpose, but almost resists for a moment. But you're much stronger than him, so he just kind of gets shoved in and looks back at you, a little bit annoyed, grips at his chest, and just starts walking. His shoulders slump a bit, but he continues and does not make a noise.
And yeah, Darius would drop in last. He would sort of do shakily again. He doesn't have access to both his arms at the moment, hopefully. He sort of grabs onto one of the windowsills and sort of hangs there for a bit before dropping. And he could not have avoided making a sound. He was still wearing his plates. So, yeah.
Yeah, as you're trying to grip the windowsill to pull yourself in, and much to your horror, your other hand won't grip. Like it's a weak, feeble attempt at doing so.
Yeah, and he would consciously sort of look at his arm just hanging limp at his side and just... He would focus and try to make his fingers even twitch, but he just sees nothing. And just... on minutes on end, if they're not moving in any particular direction, he's just staring at his arm and trying to get some kind of reaction, some kind of... Yeah, just trying to make... possibly through sheer force of will alone, just making this hump of flesh actually work.
And much to your dismay, it just won't. No matter what you do, slapping your arm, forward, forcing your fingers close with the other hand, as you force them closed, your fingers just like open up again. And you hear kind of a small grunt as kind of you see Ithar's legs come over the edge of the windowsill, and she pulls the boat up next to her, and Pollitt takes out the pole and drops it down to one of you, and then proceeds to fold the boat. And then she drops it into her pack and drops over the edge next to you and folds up the pole and sticks it in with the boat. She would look at each of you. All right, I'll take the lead. Follow me as you wish. Just remember to be quiet. We don't have time to take any detours. We don't have time to listen. If we have to go past sleepers, we will do so one by one and as quietly as possible. They generally, if you don't disturb them in any way, are passive, but that is as long as they are asleep. Remember, no sound if we come across any, and if we do, hopefully we can dispatch them before they're able to wail. And if we're unlucky and they wail, it's a run, it's a race. Do you understand? We cannot fight all of them if they wail.
Well, I've always been, if there's one thing I am good at, it's running.
So
And-
I said, the wailing keeps. Already here, guys.
And he, Darius is sort of lets out a weak chuckle. He looks to Sebastian and maybe sort of prods at his shoulder and goes, sort of reaches into his own pack and maybe brings out sort of an aged and tattered piece of cloth, which, if you would actually notice, would be a banner of some kind. You can't really, you don't really recognize the symbol at all. But he would sort of turn to Sebastian and go, can you help me make a sling with this? Don't want my arm swinging around.
Yeah, I think I can do that. I didn't realize your arm was that bad. You
And he
okay?
sort of indicates to it and sort of looks at it, and he sort of basically tries to flex every sort of shoulder and sort of chest muscle in proximity to the left arm, but it won't even budge.
Yeah, and he kind of looks nervously at that because he knows that you're part of the muscle of the group, like a way more accomplished fighter than he is. And the fact that your effectiveness has basically been cut in half in his eyes, that's troubling. And he will give a medicine check to try to sling your arm if you want, Ty.
Do you have medicine? as proficiency?
Yes, I do.
I will let you sling him just immediately then because you have proficiency.
Cool. Sorry, how's that? Does it hurt? And then I realize that's a stupid question because you can't really feel it.
He would just give a sort of just an off look, and what he do is sort of bring his hand around to his back where you see his shield is sort of mounted, and he sort of brings it down on his left arm. His sword sort of just sitting at his hip as where it usually is. He can't really use both at the same time anymore, but he definitely can use them individually.
So you've got the shield out right now?
I got the shield out, so armor class of 13.
Okay, cool. All right. So Ithar, after she's let you put the sling on him, she nods. Says, all right. Now, each time we go through here, I never know what we're going to find. I use the same route each time, but we might not run into any sleepers if we're lucky. We might have to take a different route if there are too many. Either way, stick close, be quiet, and let's just move. Let's go.
I can assure you that if there's one thing I am not, it is lucky. So,
and she looks at you and says, well, we need you to be lucky today, Sebastian.
She shrugs like, oh, all right, I'll be lucky if you want me to be lucky. But he knows that he's not lucky.
Okay. She steps forward and begins to make her way through the interior of the Quiet Keep. The first thing you notice is that it's very, very dark and musty. And she lights a torch and suggests that one in the middle, one at the end do the same. Seeing as they can't see, it won't make a difference to them, the sleepers, that is. So she lights a torch. It's dark. It's musty. It smells of mold and decay. In the air, it hangs like death. And it is quiet as death. Besides the sound of your shuffling feet or the crackling flames, there is nothing that you can hear. And honestly, this feels the most uneasy that you've ever felt. It simply feels wrong, like you just shouldn't be here. Like, not necessarily that you're intruding, but that the place that you're stepping is dangerous. That it's death incarnate for those who trespass lightly.
There is sort of, just on sheer instinct alone, he would just sort of be looking around, using torchlight, just trying to get sort of any environmental clue or some kind of, maybe spotting out maybe vantage points or some kind of cover, just keeping his mind occupied doing something that he's used to in this area that is just completely alien to him. He's used to war zones, he's used to cacophonies of screens and just metal clashing. This eerie silence is disturbing to him probably more than most. Just because of that experience he has.
Yeah, and as you're walking, as you're all scanning and looking around and seeing what you can in the darkness, I want you all to roll me perception checks.
Post in the chat.
Yeah, go ahead and post in the chat. Perfect. Okay. So your target number was a 15. So that means that Darius and Sebastian, you see this. Off in the distance, maybe at the very, very edge of the torchlight, you see the glint of metal.
And is this out of the way, or?
No, it's directly down the corridor that you've been traveling.
Okay. I would sort of dare to sort of raise a hand, maybe sort of either slow down or stop, as he leans close to maybe Ithar, or maybe someone else who noticed, which he doesn't really know who noticed, but it would sort of indicate to the piece of glinting metal and go, "There's something in the path, but I can't quite see what."
Yeah, and Sebastian's right in front of you, and you would realize that he kind of sees that as he leans in, and his eyes kind of widen as you speak, because that's the first noise other than the crackling and shuffling that he's heard, and what I imagine is a couple minutes, and he looks shocked that you broke the silence, and then would kind of like start a forward motion where he taps on Fulgrim and points, and then hopefully would kind of chain a command, silently get everyone to aware so that Ithar would see it, and then hopefully she knows what it is or what to do.
Yeah, Fulgrim passes on the tap and trying to sort of see ahead and see what this metal is, but I probably can't quite see it.
Yeah, Brif would do the same. First try and see it, have it's now been pointed out to him, and then pass it along.
So, Ithar would, she'd notice this too as you kind of like tapped on her shoulder, and she would look back and look at the group, and she'd say, "Sebastian, with me, come."
Sebastian is like giving a look like, me? Why me? And you can tell that he wants to protest it, but he also doesn't want to speak. So he's just kind of like looking to like anyone else to bail him out. And if nobody does, then he will follow.
And she would look at you as you approached, like ready to go. And she'd say, and I almost imagine you're maybe like out of fear, kind of like your teeth are chattering a bit. And she would kind of like reach up and like put her hand beneath your chin.
Yeah. And then as you like stop the chattering teeth, it kind of like gyrates down his body and up his arm. And then his quarterstaff, he's just like shaking it. And you can hear it kind of like scratching against the ground.
And she just kind of shakes her head. And she says, "And tell me again why you joined the Convokers if you couldn't deal with something like this."
He just gives her like a, there is not enough time to tell you how much regret I have.
She just kind of smiles and shakes her head. And she says, "All right, we'll keep your quarterstaff off the ground or you're going to scratch everyone else awake. Just come on." And she kind of like crouches down and starts moving forward. Roll me a stealth check.
Here we go, boys. Ready for me to blow it? Oh, 21.
Okay. Yeah.
Nice.
So she rolled really well too. So you guys make no sound as you make your way forward. Eventually arriving at the glinting piece of metal. I mean, you can't see it very well, but she reaches into her bag and she pulls out like a little vial, and she cracks the top of it and shakes it, and it starts to glow like a light green. And she kind of holds it out and leans in, and you come face to face with a pile of bones. And the clothing the pile of bones is wearing, it's torn and tattered. But as you look at it, Sebastian, it is the exact same clothing or garb that Ithar is wearing. And this is another Wayfinder.
Is there any way to tell how it died, or is it just like too old at this point?
No, it looks, as you look at it, kind of like looking at it over and because you have proficiency with medicine, you can tell that this is actually fairly recent. The bones have literally just been picked clean, though.
You start to hear the scratching of the quarterstaff against the ground again.
She kind of reaches down and grabs the bottom of it and lifts it up a little bit off the ground. And she kneels down and reaches into the clothing, and she pulls out like a little book and flips it open and opens it. She shakes her head. I knew you weren't on another mission. And she closes it and clips it shut again and puts it inside of her own vest. I know him. This is Raph. He was one of the best of us, actually. I heard that he took a group through here, but I hadn't heard from him in at least a month, so I guess that answers what happened to him.
Just like whisper, like I'm sorry for your loss.
It's like, nah, he was a dick, but it's okay. And she kind of like leans down and kind of starts like sifting through his clothes some more. And she comes away with a small bag, and it's almost kind of like a knapsack like yours, but a little bit smaller, more like a side satchel almost. And inside there are a couple of letters which she pulls out. He might have been a dick, but he had a family. And folds them up and slides them into the inside of her vest. Well, if you see anything here that you might need, feel free to take it. There's there's one of those grapplers that she has, like the 4-pronged hook.
Yeah, I was looking for that.
Yeah, so there's one of those kind of resting next to his body. It looks like he had 2 short swords, a couple of daggers. He has an explorer's pack, and one of those vials that you saw her break and shake up.
Is it called a grappler? Sorry, I'd grab that, and then
Yeah, it's called a grappler.
All right, I'll add that to my inventory.
And Darius was sort of he'd go for the sort of shake up glowing green flask.
Yeah.
Having more light the better, especially for someone who can't see in the dark.
Yeah, it's called a glow vial. So you can add that to your inventory. And so there are the 2 short swords and a couple of daggers, if anybody else wants those, and an explorer's pack, with most of the stuff still in it.
Let me see if I do want any of that.
I'll just shoulder the extra pack. Sure, the rations will come in handy.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really need extra couple swords. I'd probably split daggers, the short swords.
Yeah, so you take the daggers then? Yeah, they're like 3 daggers, so you can pick up the 3 daggers if you want them.
3 of them?
Yeah. And they're specifically throwing daggers also. So you can use them in hand-to-hand, but they only do 1 when hand-to-hand, but you can throw them also. Okay.
Sweet.
So you guys take what you need to, and she kind of stands up and she mutters some words in a language that probably none of you know. Do any of you know, like, Primordial, or they call it the Wayfinder's language? No? Yeah, so she whispers some weird words in this weird kind of guttural tongue, and she kind of like pats the skull on the head and leans down into the alleyway, and not the alleyway, into the corridor, and says, all right, let's go. So you make your way maybe another 70, 80 feet before you see another glint in the distance. And same situation, you guys approach it and you check it out. And you find 2 more bodies. Okay, let me see. I'm going to have all of you roll history checks. We're looking at the bodies.
All right. Not a particularly good roll on my end.
Okay, cool. Well, so Fulgrim, you know who these people are, just based off their clothing. These are Talmor Guard, presumably deserters if they're here. You can just tell by the rank insignia that one of them has over his breast.
These are far from home. I need the Aeronaut map up right now. I cannot remember where that even is.
You guys are in Talmor right now, actually.
Talmor. Okay, yeah, I'm completely lost. I am.
But you would be true. You would be correct though. That they are pretty far away from like the capital. Like this place is pretty decently far away from the capital.
Mm.
So, and as you're looking at them on the ground there in front of you, I mean, they've got guards uniforms. So they've got, each of them have a spear. They both got not chains, scale mail, and they both have a shield, a short sword. The one's wearing a rank insignia that shows that he's a captain. And one of them is wearing a, it looks like a dragon's talon on a cord around his neck, a plain leather necklace.
These would be, would Darius be able to tell if these are like, do you call them maybe dog tags, or are they just sort of personal keepsakes?
The talon is a personal keepsake. The rank insignia is more like it's just a show of his station of office.
Mm-hmm.
I'd probably take note of the necklace and grab that.
That's fine. Yeah, you can snatch the necklace off from around his neck, and as you kind of lean in to do so, the shadows kind of part away as you get closer, and you see that protruding from his forehead is a dagger.
It looked like one of the daggers I just grabbed.
Very similar in make, probably, yeah. And this is from the captain, by the way.
As I do this, I point it out to Ithar.
Kind of frowns. Internal conflict explains why they got themselves killed. That kind of noise would draw all of the sleepers on them.
And Darius, as she explains this, would probably be looking towards the ground, the cobblestones, try to see if there's maybe any sort of indication of scratching, or maybe some kind of heavy creature sort of breaking a couple, just trying to find signs of wild beasts that he's used to. Though I imagine he probably doesn't find much.
You find a couple of droppings from maybe rats. Maybe a couple of feathers from a bird that somehow made its way in here. But other than that, not really anything. And who has the highest passive perception?
I think Sebastian and I are tied.
Okay. So, but as you're leaning down, kind of looking at these scraps of nature from these animals, you hear a sound. And it sounds like the wet slap of footprints of bare feet on stone.
That'd kind of send chills down Sebastian's spine to hear that wet flopping of feet break this kind of silence. And then I would look, I guess I would meet eyes with Darius, who also heard it, and just like, what the heck is that?
He'd sort of bring his shield sort of to the forefront and sort of back up close, so he can kind of, if he needs to jump in any direction towards the party to sort of provide himself as a wall, he'll do so. But he'll try to spy from which direction this is coming from and how far away. He wants to know what they're dealing with. And how heavy it sounds, especially.
The most terrifying thing is that in the darkness, you cannot tell from which direction it's coming. It sounds like it's coming from everywhere and nowhere. And as the footsteps, the slapping feet on the cold stone get louder and louder. Ithar kind of just holds up a hand and goes like this. Like, don't make any sound. And I want everybody to roll me a stealth check.
Oh boy.
And I'm now using one of my points of inspiration.
Yes.
I would consider holding on to that point of inspiration.
Oh fuck me.
Okay. Well, Fulgrim and Sebastian, what do you guys do that makes enough noise to draw this thing's attention?
I actually imagine it's my bag. It starts randomly rumbling on my back. And in a panic, I do everything I can to like grab it, and I hug it, and it starts kind of like gyrating, and then I start slapping it and fall into Fulgrim, and then I'll let him say whatever happens after that as I kind of fumble into him.
I think the bag would probably hit the wound on his face, and he just let out a stifled yelp as the pain sort of shoots up his cheek and jaw. And he just covers his mouth like, just, oh shit.
Yeah, that would do it. As this yelp escapes your lips, you hear the footsteps stop for a second, and then they start going like a little bit faster, like as if it's walking quickly towards you. And Ithar just holds up her like this, like she just stops. And into the candle, into the torchlight, a sickly pale figure emerges. Where its eyes should be, now drooping skin covers. And this is exactly the first nightmare I ever remembered. And it's, so you know the thing from Pan's Labyrinth? The weird thing with like the eyes on its hands?
Yep.
It looks like that, except for with the eyes.
Yeah. I watched that the other day. Refreshing my memory. I watched that the other day.
And its mouth just kind of hangs open, its jaw kind of swinging side to side as it steps into the light. And it kind of just stops. And you see its perfectly smooth face until its mouth, its center of its face kind of splits into two nostrils. You hear as it kind of starts breathing deeply. Everything is still for what feels like eternity as it stands there breathing, its mouth hanging open, taking deep gasps as well. You see that the rest of its body is lanky. Its arms hang down to like its knees. Its back is kind of hunched. Its legs are bow-legged. And as it kind of just like sits there, its shoulders up near its head, breathing, and nothing happens. You see Ithar reach down to her side, and she picks up a small, you see her reach into a bag, and she just pulls out a rock about the size of her fist. And she leans back ever so quietly with her chainmail. And sidearms it past it down the corridor behind it. Straight up Harry Potter and the Basilisk. And the creature hears this, and you hear this like low moaning sound come out of its mouth as it turns and starts sprinting the other way.
I don't think Darius would even if it's gone from sight, I don't think he would even dare to even let out a peep. He would just sort of be looking around warily, just absolutely. he doesn't know what he saw. It has no visible comparative to giants, orcs, goblins, things he's dealt with, things he's gotten used to. This thing, this abomination that he just saw is something else, and he doesn't know how to process it. And he's just sort of, in the aftermath, he's trying his hardest to just focus his mind on something else, get his attention on something else, and he just looks at everybody else. And for the first time, you'll probably see him maybe a little panicked.
Fulgrim would just be staring at Sebastian with just this deathly stare. Like, what the fuck, man? Almost got us killed.
Sorry. I guess I haven't worked out all the kinks with this thing yet.
Yeah, after seeing that thing respond to sound like that and hearing them say this, Brif would just look at them, just turning his head and give this sideways stare. Like, you want to test this thing?
And
Sebastian wants nothing to do with that.
as Brif sort of lets that hang in the air, as the thing goes in the opposite direction, I imagine, Darius would just sort of indicate and sort of point down the hallway they were walking and just put a finger to his lips and begin to slowly inch away, just walking super slow, super methodically in that direction.
Yeah, Ithar would kind of look at you, Sebastian, and Fulgrim, and her eyes would be kind of wide, and she'd just shake her head, and she'd lean in, and in like the death of whispers, just so quiet. She says, "It's not safe to move anymore. With that thing wandering the halls, if it finds us, everything else will know. I tell you, that moan was not the wail. That was a warning. If it wails in here, we are doomed. Now, seeing as it is, strangely enough, wandering, I've never seen that before. I suggest that we find somewhere to take shelter for the next 10, 12 hours. Somewhere to lie low until it forgets that anything ever happened. Or we can keep going."
We have precious cargo. I don't think we should be risking that. And he sort of looks at the old man who's been keeping sort of quiet in the back while we've been walking. And he just turns to Ithar and goes, "Wherever we can find shelter, I'll appreciate. I need to. Let's just rest for now."
She would look at the rest of you to get your consensus on this.
You're the expert. We hired you. You know what you're doing. Trust your judgment.
And assuming no one raises any complaints, she would take the lead again, making her way down the corridor, maybe another 80, 90 feet until she found a door that looks like it's still solid enough that you could open and close it. And with a grunt, she pushes against it and goes, and it screeches a little bit. And she pushes it the rest of the way in with a, all right, everyone in quickly, come on.
sort of the same as before. Darius would just sort of make sure everybody's through before he goes, and yeah, sort of just hold up a line from behind.
Okay. So, assuming you guys go in marching order, as you're all slipping in, Ithar's going to go in last, though. As you're all slipping into this room, Darius in the very back with Emran, you hear of something moving down the corridor towards you. And she kind of shoves you guys into the room, just very unceremoniously, and kind of leans into the door real quick and shuts it. And just kind of backs away and breathes out. All right. We stay here 10 hours. Then we go. I suppose make yourself comfortable. Get some sleep if you need to. And she'll kind of look at you, Fulgrim. And she says, but remove your armor to sleep. We don't want you rolling around like a tin can.
All right. And he starts trying to, as quietly as possible, take off his chainmail. And stuff it into one of his packs. And he removes some of the rations and just hands them around to everyone.
Sebastian would kind of thank you and nervously take it and start unwrapping it and trying to eat. But as he picks at it, he quickly finds that he doesn't really have an appetite for it. And you can just see him like looking around and starting to unravel as he finds that the silence is almost oppressively louder than most noises. And the thought of him being here for 10 hours, even though the room is not necessarily small, is just causing him to feel suffocated and confined, almost as if the silence is just squeezing him. And you can just see that as like he's trying to be calm, but he looks like he's on the fringe of just like running or doing something stupid.
And as sort of Darius noticed this, and Sebastian, I don't think is particularly subtle about this sort of mini breakdown he's having, he would just sort of take a moment to maybe a large piece of cloth or maybe a spare jerkin, just sort of start cutting it up in strips and maybe start patting at the edges of the door to make it so that there's no sound coming from the inside to the outside. And while he's doing so, he sort of absolutely starts speaking, again low as not draw too much attention. He goes, since we've got time, Fulgrim, why did you join? The Provokers, I mean. Nope. Convokers, I mean.
We're not provokers yet.
We're not Provokers now.
I joined. I had nothing else to do. Nowhere else to go. It's pretty much it. I traveled the world. What else is there left to do?
Fair enough. Brif, yeah. He says he takes another strips and sort of starts panning at the other upper ridges of the door.
A new start. A good one. I could actually do something worthwhile. You?
Me. He says he starts getting a pair spare strips of leather, and he sort of he gets sort of this faraway look. There's a few reasons. I joined partly through circumstance. I hardly chose to seek out the convocation, but a chance encounter with an old man probably put me on this path. Family back home, so I want to provide. And I'm tired of war zones. I don't want to be in the gutter. I don't want to be in the middle of a battle and not be able to save anyone. I have seen people die gruesome deaths. I have dodged death more times than I deserve. And I want to stop wars before they happen. That's what I want to do. And he sort of looks at the group and goes, an old man like me has no right to profess about how the world should be, but all of you probably have some decent convokers in you, if you find them eventually. And he would just sort of go silent at that and just keep patting the door until he finishes and just lay his shield down and maybe start to nap.
You hear from the corner of the room, Emran would pipe up. I mean, obviously you weren't talking directly to him, but he answers anyways. You know, I used to think being a convoker was glamorous, that it was being a hero, and my son likes to tell me that that I am a hero, that I'm like Arendelle Dawnbringer or Emery Sherstill. I mean, I read books. I'm a professor more than anything. I study for them, and I used to think that knowledge was what would save the world, but people don't listen to people with knowledge. It seems like people want to make a difference with a sword. And you kind of like look at all of you, kind of like look down at his hands that are kind of like desperately clasping and unclasping at his ring. He's taking it off and he's rolling it through his fingers, his Convoker ring. Now, I don't claim to understand the way the world is, but I do know that it's not a matter of being a hero. It's a matter of just believing that you can be someone or something worth having in this world. That's what gets you places. That's what makes you into a hero. It's for having something to believe in and stand up for. Kind of just flicks the ring in his hand and catches it again. Sorry, I mean, I don't know if you were talking to me at all, but that's my 2 cents. He kind of goes quiet again.
This seems to, at first, be a bit discouraging to Brif, but as he talks about having a purpose, you know, he looks at him and goes, this place, now. The whole base was collapsing. Forgiven was to keep you safe. Fear no one. If the words you've read and things you know are important, this matter.
For some reason, I'm losing half of what you're saying. Like that last part of it, I didn't get. But you after the point where you said you do matter.
Yeah, basically just like kind of trying to say like what if what you say is true, why are we here? What do you know? He's kind of trying to pry what the heck is going on, but do it kind of stealthily too.
Yeah, he would look up at you as you say, like, well, what do you have that's so important? Let's just say there are more than these modern ruins buried out here in the swamp. And we found something that I was brought here specifically to study. I can't tell you the specifics, I can't, I'm sorry. But just know that what I know is here, and he taps his head, and here, and he pulls out a letter, the letter that he's been carrying with him of utmost importance. It is of utmost importance that one of us makes it, either me or the letter. Preferably, I hope it's me. But I know that what I know, and that what this letter says, let's just say it's connected to what happened that night. In more than one way. And he kind of looks down at his hands. And you hear him whisper, I just want to see my son again.
And Darius sort of in the shadow, laying his head in the top of his shield, probably with maybe the leftover leather scraps of whatever is cutting up, just sort of there in between. He mutters, "We both do, pal. We both do." And he finally turned to his head to Sebastian and goes, "You didn't share. If we're telling stories, then you might as well."
As you call to Sebastian, I imagine that he's like sitting next to Fulgrim. And Fulgrim probably notices as everyone's going around and saying why they joined the Convokers, that he's progressively getting more fidgety as it comes close to him. And he's just uncomfortably like kind of putting on himself and fiddling with stuff. And then there's that moment where you guys almost forgot to ask him, and he kind of like sighs relief. And then you turn to him and ask him, like, what about you? And he kind of just freezes there. And he's like, takes a deep breath, holds his hand to his temple, and just, why did I join the Convokers? And he kind of sits there on that, and he looks to you, and there's just like a wildness in his eyes. I haven't stopped asking myself that since the night that our base fell. I thought I was doing the right thing. I as a child, I used to look up to the Convokers, and I thought I moved past that, but for some reason there I was. I signed up for the training, and I've never been good at it. I'd be kidding myself if I said I was. You'd be kidding me if you said I was. So why did I join? You said to save people. And he kind of looks at you. Who the fuck have we saved? So many people have died already. This is bullshit. Believing you can be someone, what is that going to get us? And he starts getting louder, and he doesn't realize it. Believing myself, what could that possibly accomplish? Believing me, I've almost got us killed every single time anything has ever happened. And tears start to well up in his eyes. The only thing that would happen if I stand up for anybody, that they're going to get hurt. I'm an idiot to think that I could be a Convoker. Why did I join? Because I made the biggest mistake in my life. And I'm sorry for that. And he realizes at this point that he's like standing up in the middle of you, talking loud. And then comes out of it and just is kind of breathing deeply.
You see approaching you from across the room, Ithar, and do you turn and look at her?
I probably would be like looking at everybody, almost like angry at first, for no reason, angry at all of them, and then scared, and then guilty.
Yeah, as you're looking around the room, eventually your gaze falls on Ithar, who's like 2 paces away from you now. And before you can say anything, her hand strikes you across the face.
I fall to the ground and kind of just like don't even bother picking myself up.
And she looks down at you and she says, "You don't seem to understand the choice you made to join the Convokers was the biggest one you would ever make. But not only that, but that it shaped you more than I think you understand, Sebastian. The earlier you, the you before the Convokers, would you have been able to walk up into the darkness at a place you've never been before and to find a dead body and still be okay with moving on?"
Kind of picks himself off the ground and looks at her. Seen many dead bodies. He says to her angrily.
And she would grab you by the collar and pull you to her face, and you'll see many more unless you figure out yourself. You won't be saving anyone until you learn how to save yourself from your own fear, Sebastian. As she kind of tosses you away from her. So you were given an opportunity. They don't just take anyone to be a Convoker. And that can be taken away just as easily if they find out that you are saying shit like this. You don't want it taken away because then you realize that you have failed. The fact that you're still here means that you haven't. I know 1,000 initiates who would have walked away already. Why are you still here? Tell yourself the truth. Don't give in to the fear that tells you that you're still here because you're too afraid to leave. You might not see it, Sebastian, but they do. And she looks at all the others. Just believe in yourself, damn it. And she turns and starts to walk away. And she stops and looks over her shoulder towards you. Or else you'll find yourself one day doing something that you think is helping, but it actually isn't. I've been a Wayfinder for 15 years. A day doesn't go by that I don't regret the choice that I made. And she walks away from you and sits down in the corner by herself. And that's when you take in what the room is. You see broken bookshelves and books everywhere, lying on the floor, rotting, some still on the shelves. But this used to be some sort of a library. And she picks up one of the books and looks at it and huffs and tosses it on the ground next to her and kind of folds her cloak around her.
I don't imagine that Sebastian actually has anything to say back. He's probably fighting back tears, and his long kind of wet and dirty hair is covering his face mostly so that you can't see, but you can see the trembling kind of shake of like someone who's clearly crying, and he's just kind of laying on the ground having felt the sting of her punch. And at this point in time, the only way to describe him is just a pitiful looking human being.
after all of this conversation and that bit of a stir in the room, Brif, trying to relax, would probably pull out that necklace he grabbed and examining it, and even comparing it to something else small. Can't quite tell what it is in the dark room. Kind of relax and eventually drift off to sleep against one of the walls.
Perfect, yeah. Anybody who wants to can take a long rest here, catching up on some sleep for the next 10 hours. But that is where we're going to take a quick break. So everyone go to the bathroom, grab a drink, be back in 5 minutes.
Definitely catching up with some HP, man.
What was that? Sorry, I didn't hear you.
Definitely catching up on some HP, man.
Yep. That juicy HP. Alright, I'll be right back. I'm gonna get a drink.
Likewise.
Will this random Icelandic kid ever stop saying provokers? Find out next time on the exciting installment of Shadows of the Ancients.
Yeah,
And I'm back.
I mean, I might as well say this now before a certain game master gets back. But I was so tempted to say, instead of falling asleep, I try and pickpocket that letter.
Let's get it off the expendable guy.
But no, not yet. Next session.
Next session. Assuming we don't die.
I don't die. You heard him, didn't you? He's coming for me.
But I'm the one.
Straight up
I'm
said-
the one with I'm the fucking cripple here.
Yeah, he did still straight up say that he's coming for me though, so
True.
I'm screwed.
You have at least full HP. That is what you have.
Yay. Full HP.
So many tabs. Why do I have them? I got so many freaking tabs.
I'm back.
Hi, back. I'm Chris.
Hi.
Matt, could you please remove the target? I really don't want you there.
It's Brif's turn
Please
to.
secure my back.
Dude,
It's Brif's
Ithar,
turn to sustain a serious injury now.
Ithar just kid slapped the crap out of Sebastian.
Totally.
He took it like a not
I
champ.
do recall you saying you would
He
use
took
that,
it like
though.
he took it like last show.
Oh yeah, I
I
said
recall
at the
you
beginning
saying
of the session I was
before
gonna pin slap you.
that.
That's right. I keep my promises, boy.
So hey,
All right. Is Harry here?
Maybe.
Yeah, he sent a message. Yeah. All right, boys. Let's get back into this.
All right.
So we're gonna come out of the end of the rest, unless anyone had anything they wanted to do during the rest. Anybody go and look through books? Did everyone just take a nap to heal?
yeah, I probably would have just checked out the necklace and drifted off. 'Cause at this point, I imagine everyone is just from everything gotten very, very little sleep. And they're just exhausted.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure everyone just passes out. Okay, yeah, Ithar keeps watch for the whole time you guys are sleeping. But eventually you each get a kick in the rump as she wakes you each up. All right, it's time to go. Come on. You've slept long enough.
Darius would sort of shake awake, and I imagine he'd sort of lean up, and he'd actually sort of slump down again, and he looks a bit surprised before he realizes that he tried to use his currently slinged arm to actually hoist himself up and sort of support him as he stands up, and it just increasingly frustrated looks down at this just useless heap of bone and sinew on his shoulder, and just sets his right arm down and just pushes himself up and moves over to the door and starts removing the strips of leather he had used to sort of pad the inside of it, while Ithar presumably goes to wake everybody else up.
Yeah. So she wakes all of you up, and she would put like a small pack of dried meat in each of your hands. You need the energy. Eat this. And she would kind of look down at you, Sebastian. She's holding it out to you. And there's none of that anger in her eyes anymore. She just kind of just like staring at you, holding it out.
Yeah, Sebastian just can't make eye contact with her. And he probably didn't even really sleep. You would look down at him, and as she's holding the meat out there, kind of like expectedly, like, whatever, we had a moment, but it's over. He's just looking, he's like stitching the robes that he's currently wearing. And you see him like sewing these pockets inside of the robes that he's wearing. Kind of like, picture like that stereotypical sketchy street guy that would like come up to you and be like, yo, you want to buy anything? And he whips out his...
You want to buy a watch?
He's just like sewing all these like pockets onto the inside of his robe. And as she's like holding out the meat expectantly for him to take it, he just kind of stops sewing for a moment, kind of like head down in her direction, but not looking at her, and just doesn't take it. Shakes his head no.
She would just kind of, if anyone was watching the scene, she'd kind of just slowly nod her head and take the meat back and put it back inside of her bag. All right, everyone, up and at 'em. Let's go.
How much further have we got to go until we're out of this hellhole?
Well, we've already made an hour of journey. If I understand correctly, we probably got another 30 minutes before we're out of the keeps.
Let's get moving then.
She nods
And,
and she extends a hand to you to pull you to her feet.
Brif would, hear this as he gets up, stretching. Best news I've heard in a long time.
And she would look at you. She says, "Don't start counting your rainbows yet. This is just the very beginning. This next part is the worst. That's why I stopped here."
Still best news.
It does sound pretty good, I will admit that. All right, and she'd look over at you, Darius, as you pulled the last strips away from the door. And she'd nod. All right, let's get ready to go. Everybody pick up your packs, get over there. And she would kind of go away to the back end of the room for a second.
Darius was gonna take this as as a signal that he's supposed to open the door, and that everybody else is stepping away. Like, in case something explodes out, they're not going to be in the immediate direction of it. So he just scowls for a bit before he sort of grunts and sort of pushes his shoulder against the door, and just as gently as he can muster, he thrusts his weight against the door and just starts inching it open until it eventually just starts sliding out.
Okay. And as it kind of slides a little bit, she kind of looks over her shoulder in surprise. She's like, no, wait. And she kind of starts making her way over to you, but it's already done. The door is already sliding open.
And he would instantly pretty much stop, and he'd almost look like, that moment where you accidentally in a video game where you accidentally start holding a grenade and you unclipped it and you didn't mean to, and just that look of, oh fuck, I messed up. That's sort of his expression right about now.
Yeah, and that's her expression too. She didn't mean that at all. In fact, she comes running back with a book. Well, I guess we're leaving right now then. And she walks up to you, Sebastian. She shoves it against your chest. I suggest you do some reading. And turns and makes her way to the front. And roll me perception checks, everybody.
Oh, dang.
Actually, I don't even think you guys need to roll perception checks to hear this. So this thing rolled nat 20 to hear. And you hear... and it's kind of this like moaning sound. And then you hear... And it fills the corridors. And she looks back at all of you. No, she says, "Run!"
That reference is too good not to make.
She looks back at all of you and she says, "Run!" And she turns and she starts sprinting down the corridor. I want everybody to roll me. Well, okay, we're gonna treat this. No, okay. So you guys can just start sprinting after right away. By the way, Sebastian, if you take a moment to look at the book, or do you just put it straight away?
With the current circumstances, I imagine he's not up for a little light reading right now.
Yeah, that's what I
So-
figured.
He actually like looks like he's about to, and it's at that moment that the scream kind of ripples through and breaks the silence, and that's going right in the bag of holding. And Sebastian's going to do what he does best.
He's running. Okay. Okay. So you guys sprint after Ithar then, right?
Yeah, I think Darius would sort of take the same point. He'd try to come up the back, and he'd have his shield at his side, and just if he could spare a look, he would just look behind him, and if the thing is close, he would maybe attempt to like take a swing just to try and stun it before focusing all his energy and attention just running.
Yeah, as you come out the door, are you still taking the back?
Taking the back, yeah. Just I may not
Okay.
be putting plate right now, but I think I'm probably the tankiest guy here. Hopefully.
Okay. Yeah, so as you come out the door behind them, Amran, you usher him out with you. You would turn and you'd hear of slapping feet, and something comes skittering around the corner. It's like it loses its balance, and then it gets back up on its feet and runs towards you. You can make one surprise attack against it. So go ahead and make a contested strength check to knock it back off its feet.
Okay. That would be a modified 20 on attack roll.
Okay, so it got a 15. You knock it straight off its feet. Like your shield just comes out, knock it back, and it goes off its bow-legged feet and just slaps onto the ground with wet.
Awesome. And yeah, he would just sort of, with his palm, sort of just start pushing Amran as he just shouts, "Run!"
Yeah, Amran just is sprinting. He's just running after them. All right, so this is the way a chase kind of works. You guys are allowed to make dash actions equal to your Constitution modifier. After that, you need to start making Constitution saves. So first round, everybody dashes. I'm assuming everyone has at least +1 Constitution. Okay. Second round, I'm guessing everybody's dashing again. Okay. So everybody's got +2 Constitution, basically.
Seems we're all wise and spec into con.
Yeah. I wouldn't call +2 specking into con. I'd call it enough to keep our asses out of the fire.
It's enough to not make us die instantly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Specking into con is when at level 4 you start pooling them in.
Which you guys might need to, considering the way the beginning of this game has gone. Okay, so as you guys start sprinting, you guys are passing like corridors and rooms on either side of you. At one point, you pass what might have been kind of like a balcony overlooking what appears to be a courtyard. Down in the courtyard is filled with water, though, and you see splashing figures running towards the wall, and they kind of start feebly, like, kind of pulling themselves up the wall.
Wait, they're walking on the walls?
No, they're like their hands. They slap them against the wall, and they're kind of like frogs almost.
Oh, okay.
Like their hands are like sticky, is what it seems like. But you hear the sound of myriad slapping feet behind you, as well as the sound of them splashing through the water and pulling themselves up this balcony. You guys just keep sprinting along. Ithar taking the lead. And now is the third check. So everybody roll me a Constitution save. You need to get higher than a 10.
Okay.
To be able to dash this turn.
I'm rolling pretty dang well. Natural 17.
Okay. A 22 second.
For once, my freaking luck is kicking in this game.
Okay. Yeah, you guys are fine. You guys keep going. Amran he's puffing a bit, but he's not slowing down. You guys are dead sprinting. And also you're allowed to make on your turn, like throw obstacles in the way if you find any obstacles. And you guys are passing things like rusted suits of armor, like bookshelves, stuff like that, as you guys are sprinting down this corridor.
Imagine the first thing that Sebastian does is as we're running, he notices that there's like kind of an abundance of vegetation that has overgrown in this runes, I would say. Is that reasonable?
Definitely, yeah.
So as we're running through all these corridors and these intersections, and they're just inevitably catching up to us, he would reach into his vial, his alchemist pouch, and he pulls out a vial. And as you look at it, it kind of has this tinge of like a gasoline rainbow with this orange kind of like almost dancing light kind of spiraling in it. And as we come up to a particularly like dense part of this vegetation, he's going to slam this liquid down. And being so flammable that it is, it kind of just instantly catches it all in flames and momentarily causes this little fire almost barricade in between us and the chasers or the sleepers.
Yeah, actually, this area is very much so like a bog. So there's like a heavy methane like concentration in the air. So as you throw this down, it just goes like that. Like the plants just explode into flame. And you see for the briefest of moment, like 30 or 40 white figures chasing you from behind as the fire explodes upwards, and you can see.
Yeah, we run a little bit faster.
And yeah, as Sebastian does this and just tosses this flask and just things light, Darius will just kind of maybe grab at the back of the collar of Emran and just sort of toss him over and jump over with him, and then maybe while running, I'm guessing maybe he sees a half crumbled wall or something akin to that, and basically what he's going to try and do is stop for the briefest of seconds and just use whatever momentum he's built up and try to shove his shield in and just ram it over, just to get this to fall over and maybe create a big obstacle for these things behind them before he starts running again.
So you're trying to knock over like a bookshelf or something?
Well, more like what I'm imagining is maybe there's sort of this half crumbled wall leading to a room or something. Basically, he's trying to knock that over, maybe some these bricks. Hopefully, maybe catching a couple in it.
So roll me athletics then to knock this over then, to try and shove.
Using a point of inspiration on that.
Okay.
That's better. Natural 16. That's 21.
Perfect. Yeah, you shove this big pile of rocks and cobblestone over, and it kind of crumbles right after the fire. So now they have to run through the fire and stumble through the cobblestones to catch up.
Awesome. And yeah, just immediately after that, just sprinting after Emran.
Okay. Yeah, you sprint right after Emran. So I'm gonna say you can't dash this turn because you did that. Same with you, Sebastian, because you guys took actions other than dashing. But you can still kind of keep up with the group. As you see Ithar kind of leading the way with her torch in her hand, you see coming down the corridor towards you like 10 or 11 of these things. You hear her curse, and she turns to a door and just kicks it in. So come on, and she turns down into the room and starts sprinting through the room.
Does the door fall off its hinges, or just swing open?
Yeah, it falls off its hinges. Like the hinges snap like iron.
Damn. Plan foiled. Well, running away.
Why? Were you gonna like end it or something?
I was gonna slam it shut behind us with thaumaturgy as I was running away.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. You can do that for the next door.
Yeah,
for the
if there's
next door.
any doors. Actually, if we go around any corners or like anything like that, he's going to look out for sort of open doors that he can slam and make noise much louder than us running away to try and distract them.
Okay, cool, perfect. So let me see. What was the marching order again? We got Ithar, Brif, Fulgrim. Okay, so you first three will make it through the door unhindered, but I'm going to need Sebastian, Darius, and Emran to make dex saves to dodge out of the grasping hands of these things as they reach for you.
Do I roll for Emran?
I'm rolling for Emran.
Okay.
And you can do athletics. You can do athletics or acrobatics if you prefer that. Kind of just like shoving their hands off. It's like a contested grapple.
Yeah, my dice are rolling godly tonight, so modified 21.
Okay, cool.
So I just totally remembered that I have internal bleeding.
Yeah, so that's only a DC 10 con save.
Yeah. I feel like he's just remembering, like in character, he's actually just remembering this too now as he's exerting himself. It says actually in combat, so I might be good anyways, but anyways, I'm going to do a con save just because it's cool.
Okay, sure, go ahead.
And there we go. A 6. So I definitely failed that con save.
Okay.
So as I'm trying...
Instead of making it so you can't do anything, I'm going to give you disadvantage, though, because you chose to take that.
Yep. All right, and then a dex save or a check, sorry?
You can roll acrobatics, athletics, or a dex save.
All right, at disadvantage. Let's do acrobatics. Oh my god. I rolled a nat 20 and a 19. No, I'm kidding.
The dice wanted to win, man.
Yeah.
I was a little bit worried for you just barely because they rolled like decently high.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
okay.
I imagine, or do you want to narrate it?
No, you narrate it, dude. You narrate it.
So they're like coming up and basically grabbing us. It's as we're running, and I threw the alchemist flame down, and we're all like trying to run for this door and kind of put some space in between us, that I do remember that I have this serious injury as I try to I'm running, and for the longest time I've been holding my breath. And it's at this point that I realize I need to take a deep breath. And as Sebastian does, it's a lightning shock of pain as he just feels his ribs sizzle almost. It's like when you like pinch a nerve, it almost like instantly debilitates him. And he temporarily falls to the ground, and as he starts to pick himself up, they're already on him, and hands are grabbing at his legs and his waist, and he's trying to pick them away. But as he does, I imagine he holds out his hand, and who is it that reaches out and grabs him and pulls him in?
I would imagine it's totally Darius. He just kind of, during his run, as sort of Emran runs in the door, he just grabs onto you and unceremoniously just tosses you up as he's just pushing you through the door and just going behind you.
You drop your shield to grab him?
Yeah, I pretty much just, I just unbuckle the straps and I just toss it into that mound of just creatures, hoping that maybe distracts one of them, but not really putting any, not really betting on that happening.
I almost imagine it's like you're pulling me out of a pit of these creatures. They're all like so densely packed on now that you're just literally ripping me out of this swarm or pit of these sleeper monsters. And as you do throw me, I just keep booking it.
By the way, as you're pulled free of the pile, you see a hand reach around the doorway and pull itself through. And the most disturbing thing now, though, is that this one, as it looks around, its eyes are open. This one's different. It's bigger. It's bulkier. And its eyes, though you would think that they might be natural, some semblance of being human, they are instead void-like. They are purely white. And in the very center of them is a small dot of black. And it looks at you, and shrieks an unearthly howl.
I was gonna ask, is this through the door running through?
This one's trying to get through the doors behind the mound, though.
Oh, okay, I get you.
Now would be a good time to thaumaturgy a door closed.
I think this is the door with the one on its off its hinges, though, isn't it?
Yeah, this one got knocked off the hinges, but you're running through consecutive rooms now.
Well, any door that I could slam once everyone's through, I will. Did Emran make it through? I don't think I caught that.
Yeah, Emran made it through, just barely. He succeeded on his check also.
Okay. No, I think it's time just to run, to be honest.
Yeah. So as you guys just pick up and start running again, Sebastian, Emran's running right next to you, and you see him. He pulls out this vial and he hands it to you, This is break this over yourself now. And he breaks one over himself, and this slimy liquid pours over him. So he basically greased his body.
Kind of like looking at him like, what the heck are you talking about, as I'm running, but then I just don't question it. And I, for some reason of all places, slam it right in my face. And as I do, you just feel the glass like scrape across my forehead, and you just see this kind of blood as I just like cut myself. And then this grease starts pouring down my head and probably even face at this point now that he thinks about it.
Yeah, it just drips all over your body. And essentially now anything that tries to grapple you have disadvantage.
Nice.
And he kind of just nods to you as he's sprinting right next to you. You guys are passing through multiple rooms now. Fulgrim, if you want to use a thaumaturgy, you can shut a door. Just keep in mind that also is your action to thaumaturgy.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, definitely.
Okay, yeah, what door? Are you doing a door to distract or a door to slam a door shut?
I'm guessing they're like right behind us, right?
Yeah, they're pretty much right behind you guys.
Yeah, I'm going to slam shut one directly behind us. Try and hold them off for a little bit.
Okay, yeah, the door just, as they're about to reach the door, it slams shut, and you hear thumping against the door. It starts to splinter and break. It's not going to hold for long. All right, everybody take another dash action. Go ahead and roll me con saves. For those of you who this is your first... Oh, everyone's already rolled a con save, so now it is DC 12.
Okay, then. I'm glad I have +2 because I got a natural 10. Suit, exactly 12. Oh, right. I have broken ribs. I should probably be rolling those too. Okay, then, never mind.
Okay, so the only person that fails then is Sebastian. Sebastian, you're starting to feel the effects of this sprinting. No, not a point of exhaustion yet. This time you just can't sprint. The next time if you fail again, it is a point of exhaustion.
All right. You see me start to visibly slow down, whereas at first I was in the lead. After being grabbed by these sleepers, I'm starting to trail behind.
Yeah, Emran kind of like looks over at you. Come on, run!
And if I may, I'd actually like to sort of forgo my dash action for now. And what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to move up to the side of him and sort of slip my arm under his shoulder and sort of grab onto the other side tight. And just, I want to, considering I'm not hurting as much as he is, I just physically want to start just pushing him along with me, sort of pushing him into the paces. I sort of, again, yell in his ear. Just to get moving, actually, he yells, "Don't stop running, Willicker! You're worth my whole sword arm."
Absolutely. And as Sebastian sees this old grizzled man, his one arm, is it your good arm or your bad arm that's slinged up?
It's the bad arm is slinged up. I physically can't move that one.
Sees your hand slinged up, and yet you're just still running with tenacity and just booking it. But you come back for him, and you start pushing him along, and he just has that moment where you can tell that he was about to, like, maybe just this is where it's over for him. But he sees the look in your eyes, and he's going to push on, and just kind of he nods and yeah, sorry, I'm going. Just keep up with me. We're okay. We're gonna get through this.
And you just see the hint of a smile as he just as you start running.
You hear the sound of splintering wood behind you, and you hear the door come down. And then the screams become loud again. So they lost one turn of chasing you, but they're on the trail again. Everybody con saves. Unless you're doing something to impede their movement.
Okay.
I bet maybe you were passing through a room that had some sort of a chandelier in it once, with a rickety rope that's gone weak holding it. I want to try and cut that rope and maybe get it to slam right in the middle of the room.
Are you kind of throwing like a dagger at it, or are you jumping up to attack with a sword?
Try and throw one of my...
Okay, go ahead. Make me an attack. Make me a ranged attack.
Going to be a proficiency with it, because I don't know what exactly it, or is it something different?
Throwing dagger is just a ranged weapon. So just if you have proficiency with ranged weapons, then yeah, I think you do as a fighter. So you just go ahead and throw it with proficiency.
All right, then 20.
Perfect. Yeah, that would cut the rope. Darius and Sebastian, you guys barely make it out from beneath this thing, and the chandelier slams down behind you right in the doorway. Perfect. So you forgoed your dash this turn to do that, but you guys keep moving. You hear them kind of stumbling over the chandelier. They're going to lose half their movement this turn, as it is difficult terrain. Okay. You guys reach a corridor, and Ithar breaks to the right, and she's still sprinting. Even she's starting to look a bit winded, though, but she's still going. Emran starts to slow. You guys, you see this corridor going clear down. You can see a little bit of light at the very end of it. She says, that's the crossing. She kind of shouts over her shoulder. Once we get over that, we'll be in a different part of the building. I don't think they'll be able to reach us.
All right. And as she calls this back, I basically, seeing Emran in front of us slow, I call out, hoping that Brif is hearing this, and go, young man, the fucking scribe is slowing down. Can you help him out? Sorry, my parents sleeping in the room. I'm hesitant to actually yell. So you'll have to settle for that.
Why are they asleep, though? I mean, it's almost 1:45.
It's 4:40. It's 5:48, man.
No more reason. It's only one. They need to get out of bed.
Okay, so are you going to aid Emran, or what is Brif
basically,
doing?
I'm calling out to Brif and basically telling him as enthusiastically as I can, help the old guy.
Does Imran look like he needs my help? How is he looking?
He looks winded. You can't really tell if he'll need help. I mean, he's still running, but it looks like his last con save was a close one, basically, like a really close one.
Since he looks like he's still at least half decent, I'm gonna not help him this turn.
Okay, perfect.
Or I'm getting myself out of trouble.
Okay. You guys continue sprinting along the corridor. One more sprint check before you get to the crossing. So go ahead, everybody roll me con saves.
Can I use the action surge to forgo the roll?
To forego the roll? To forego the roll, no, but I'll let you take it twice and just
Okay.
give you disadvantage.
All right. I hardly needed to. 17 and 18.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, you're fine. You're totally good. What did everybody else get? Okay, so Fulgrim failed.
There it is, boys. The natural one.
You nat one?
Just in time.
Okay, because Emran nat one also.
Oh, this is so perfect.
So Emran,
Good thing you
Emran,
Greece.
Emran was behind you to begin with. So he collapses to the ground. And he looks up, kind of like in surprise, as his head just kind of slams against the ground. I need you to roll me a luck die, Sebastian.
Right down the middle with a 4.
Okay, so nothing bad, nothing good. But he falls and he got a 1 on the luck die, and his head cracks against the stone and he's dazed now.
Perfect.
So Emran kind of just slides a bit across the floor for a second, and he's kind of just bleary, and you see the horde behind him. He's greased. He's on the ground. And he manages to keep his wits about him enough to know what this means. And he would kind of look up at all of you in front of him. And he'd look down. And he'd pull his ring off, and he'd pull the satchel off and slide the ring and the letter inside the satchel and throw it. And Ithar kind of like looks back, and she locks eyes with Emran, and Emran yells, "Keep them safe."
I bet being somewhere closer to the back after I took that action, and since I was told to help him, but I chose to not and dash myself the bag, items in it, and throw it over myself as I run.
And Darius says sorry. You go ahead. Okay. Darius, he looks back at the guy, and how close is the horde to him exactly?
Like, so they're maybe 30, 40 feet away from him.
Okay, so there's hardly any time to... He looks back at him, and he sort of, again, he hesitates for a bit. He sort of momentarily sort of slows down his movement, and he just ponders just running back, just booking it, and grabbing him, but then he realizes he has only one arm. He can't carry both. And he looks between Sebastian, he looks between the guy, and he just gives him a solemn nod. And what he does is he for a brief moment lets his arm drop down to his hip, his one good arm, and tosses him a dagger and calls out, "Don't die from being eaten, you stupid idiot!" And then he grabs onto Willicker and just starts booking it again.
So roll me athletics to pick up Sebastian and get him running again.
All right. Natural 16, 21.
Yeah, you lift him off the ground onto his feet. And you see, as you sprint around the corner, does anybody look back?
I wanted to do something actually.
Okay, so go ahead.
I think Fulgrim just looks just so pissed. He screams out, "I'm not watching you die," runs back towards Emran, shoving him well behind him, and with his shield standing upright, he waits, holding his action until they get just right up to his face. And then when they do, you'll find out what I want to do.
Okay. You grab Emran and you kind of shove him like, "I'm not watching you die." And he kind of just looks at you like surprised. He says, "What are you doing? There's no way you're being able to stop them." And that's about the point where they reach you. So what are you doing?
He'd look up to where the sky would be if there wasn't a ceiling. grasp with his free hand his holy symbol, just give off just this almost like a dying scream, but obviously he's not dying yet. And these just shards of lightning just fly out, emanating from his holy symbol towards the towards these creatures, and he casts Thunder Wave.
And that's a what save again?
They need to make some. Where is it?
I think it's some juicy con saves.
Yep.
I think it is a juicy con save. Yeah. DC is 12. So.
Okay. So the vast majority fails, but there's 2 things specifically to succeed. I want you, but as you call this lightning, this explosion of thunder, you realize you notice something very, very strange about it. And that is that the lightning is white. Which means only one thing to the Storm Dwarves, to the Thunder Dwarves. The presence of Frondor. The blessings of Frondor. And as this explodes outwards, and they fail, they are lifted off their feet and knocked back 10 feet away from you. Except for 2 big, brawny ones with eyes open. They are pushed backwards, but not off their feet. You bought yourself 1 turn to get to the crossing.
They also take 8 damage as well.
Okay.
For those that failed.
Yeah.
And half if they.
You have earned yourself 1 turn to get to the crossing. Roll me a con save for your dash.
Yeah.
By the way, take a point of inspiration. That was epic.
He'd only dash if Emran.
Keep
dashed
giving
as
it to
well.
him.
Yeah, Emran's getting up. He's stumbling to his feet because he lost the turn being on the ground, but you gave him 1. So he can possibly make it now.
What's the DC?
It's DC 16 now. And Emran actually makes it.
Here we go, boys. Hey, 19 on the die.
Yes.
So Darius, as you were slinging Sebastian down the hallway, you make it around the corner. You see the light. You see a ramshackle rope bridge connecting this tower to the next one. Ithar is on the other side. Brif is on the other side. You make your way to the other side, and there's nothing. You can't tell what's happening behind you, and you hear an explosion of thunder, and you see crackling white lightning spread across the stone. And then Emran comes sprinting around the corner, and so does Fulgrim. And they sprint across the bridge. And as they do, Ithar cuts the ropes. And the bridge falls against the other side.
Darius sort of, at this point, he just collapsed against one of the walls. It just let Sebastian sort of slump from his arms. He just is heavily panting. Just his hand sort of instinctively reaching for the sword hilt, just in this heightened state of just excitement, this adrenaline. He feels like there should be more fighting than there actually is. And he just mutters, his vision being blurred with sweat. Is everyone okay?
Stands on the edge of where this bridge used to be, and you can see him just panting with this giant grin as his eyes close and he looks up, and for a second looks like he might just scream out. It's just like, yes, a victory thing, but catches himself and says it quietly, yes. That.
I imagine he just sort of half started to yelling it too, like, yeah. Yes. And there's just kind of he'd shake his head, not really replying to that at all.
Yeah, Ithar is kind of bent over She actually throws up over the edge into the water. And she looks up at all of you. And she looks at you, Fulgrim. And she nods to you. She says, "Good job. I don't know how, but we somehow made it through." And she would look up at the other side of the bridge where now a white mass is just gathering there. And at the front of the mass, two figures, brawny, stand with their eyes open, staring across the gap at you.
Yeah, just with a grin that's made a bit larger now that he's missing part of his cheek. I'm sure the gauze has been ripped off in the chase. He just lifts up a middle finger at these two things just staring at him, and just whispers to himself, "Thank you, Rhonda." And then turns back to the group.
Ithar looks down at all of you. "Good running. At least I know they condition you well in Glasspool." And she kind of just like pops her back and like rotates her shoulders. Whew. "Well, take a breather. Take 10. And we'll start moving as soon as that's done." So quick question, out of character. How many of you guys are okay going another hour?
I am positively ecstatic. Just, I could go for a few more, like 2-3 hours. I don't care.
I got an hour.
Yeah, that was. Yeah, I can do another hour. That was good.
I am loving this so far.
Yep.
Okay, so we'll do one more hour. For now, everybody will just take another quick break, a quick breather, go to the bathroom, grab a drink, do what you ever need to, and then be back here in like 2-3 minutes.
Cool.
This is some great shit.
I know, right? I think this session was worth the wait. I don't know about you.
I don't know about you, but I would have liked to have played it last Friday.
I would have liked it too, but Yeah, you know what happened.
No, I don't. Why don't you recount the story?
No.
Give you shit, man. Yeah, I am.
Ritz crackers, the snacks of peasants.
Dude, that is rich person food for me this week. That's wealthy food for me this week. I'm not kidding.
And I feel sorry for you.
Man, we have yet to have a combat this session, but the chase scene was nice.
It was
The
super.
chase scene was awesome.
It was super dope.
I don't see chase scenes ever used. It makes me kind of sad.
I actually tried to implement a couple in my own
Nice.
campaigns. I just find them severely underrated.
I think it's because nobody really knows how to do a good one.
Until they see one done. Like this session.
Yeah, like this. There's always that possibility that a bad game master just do it justice, see if the methodology is good, or the party just isn't there. But you got it, man. That was
Dude, it was good, man. You guys pleased me with that chase scene. Just quick thoughts, quick actions, good ideas. Fulgrim stepping in to save Emrin. Darius
that
picking
was
him up.
awesome.
I thought Brif's reaction to like go help him was perfect. Like kind of like, nah, man, I'm saving myself if he can still run.
And then of course he fails.
I had the temptation of just going in and
Afterwards.
shouting. I had just the sheer temptation to just shout, "You idiot!"
Dude, it's so good though because I feel like 9 out of 10 people would honestly just keep running and ignore and just let him go. Like they
Especially
would.
Brif.
Well, I mean, Brif was thinking about leaving in the previous town.
Yeah.
So I mean, like it was like
That makes
perfect.
sense.
Like it fit. So I thought that was very well
Yeah.
done.
It would be completely out of character for him to go, yeah, I'm gonna risk my life to save this guy. So, but also just gonna point out
Oh,
it's out
is
of
everybody here?
character.
I'm back.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I was totally gonna sack Emrin to save myself. I'm not holding that one. You guys were on top of it.
Yeah, dude, that couldn't have been more perfectly timed that you both nat 1 at the same time.
Yeah. I
only
pictured it
difference-
as like us falling down and me totally like kicking him in the face and running.
Like straight up, like out of Walking Dead, Sean
Yeah.
shoots the fat dude in the leg and leaves him behind to die.
Yeah.
I know.
Maybe not that cutthroat, but
It was also a really fun moment for me because, like I said, I've only got one arm. I have to pick who I save.
Yeah, man, that was really, really good RP moments, and especially the quiet keeps have been really fun. I'm really excited and happy we got to do this. But all right, so now that everyone's here, let's go ahead and pick back up. I'm gonna fast forward like an hour or two. You guys find yourselves back into the depths of the quiet keeps, and you guys are making your way quietly again. Eventually, you come upon a set of stairs leading down. And Ithar looks back at you. We get through here. The rest of it's easy. But this is... Well, they call it the Wayfinder's Folly for a reason. And I think you'll see why. She starts making her way down the stairs. And she whispers, for some reason they gather here. And you see at the bottom of the stairs water. We make our way across, one at a time. Move as slow as you need to. This is where they come to sleep. If we make it through here without waking any of them, power to us. But be quiet. And if we have to, we'll fight. but I prefer just as much if we could make it through here quietly. I'll go first. Next. Darius, you come next. Followed by, she kind of looks at Emran, you, and you, Sebastian. Fulgrim, Brif, you bring up the last. All right, let's go. So what I'm looking for is individual stealth checks right now to get across this water. So everybody go ahead and make me one. What did you get, Sebastian?
You got an extra point of inspiration, dude.
Okay. Ithar passes, no issues. Darius passes, no issues. Emran passes, no issues. Sebastian, as you make your way across, if you were to glance to your sides, you'd see that around you, these things, these sleepers, they stand hunched, breathing. Like, you know, in what's it called? The movie with Will Smith in it.
Yeah. I Am Legend.
I Am Legend. You know how like they all sleep and they're kind of like their arms are bobbing up and down? That's kind of the way they're like standing in the water. They're just their heads bowed, their arms moving up and down as they breathe rapidly. And as you step, what do? I'm actually just going to say again, your bag. Your bag. Suddenly on your back, it's like an alarm clock. Just clashing metal. And you grab it and you hold it. And it stops. But so did all the rapid breathing. And as you look up and look to the sides, you see that their heads have been raised and they're looking at you. Everybody roll initiative.
You're welcome, guys.
Well, finally I got a roll below 16, eh?
Everybody post to what you rolled in the chat. Oh, nat 20, nice.
Game time, boys.
All right, and that is the initiative. Brif, your turn.
So I see these things, you know, stop sleeping and stare up to look at them. And I know in an instant there's going to be screaming, and there's no way this time. We're all too tired, they're too close. So I'm just going to pull my swords and start to go right at them. So that will be a hit.
A 19 will hit, a 9 will not.
Points of damage.
Perfect. Yeah, you just dive into the water and you just cut one of them across the chest. No blood comes out, actually. Just the skin just kind of sags away from the hole. Ithar, she turns and she kind of just grunts and pulls that greatsword off her back again and splashes down into the water, attacking the nearest one to you, Sebastian, twice. hitting both times and dealing 22 points of damage, enough to cut it down immediately. All right, Sebastian.
Is there any chance, because we're out in a forest now, correct? Or like a swamplands?
So you're still inside the keeps. It's just
Okay.
like a flooded piece of the keep.
Is there anything that I could like pull my grappler out and like hook onto and kind of swing out of the middle of this pit?
Yeah, the place is dotted with like pillars, and you see on the other side of the room like a kind of a crumbling wall. There are like vines and stuff up on the ceiling and growing up along the walls everywhere. There are plenty of options.
Yeah, so I just basically don't want to be in the middle of a dog pile. So
Okay.
would that take my action or?
Yeah, it would be your action to grapple onto something. So go ahead and make me a ranged attack,
All right.
and then you'll use athletics or acrobatics to pull yourself to it.
All right. So 21, I definitely hit my mark.
Yeah, you hit your mark. Deftly, very deftly, actually.
And 18 for the athletics. Or shit, I forgot the stupid con save to see if any of this actually happens. Let's do that. So I have this great plan that I'm going to grapple hook out and swing out and be all cool, but I rolled a 9 on my con save. So instead, as I start to swing around this grappler and try to hook it, I'm just overcome with pain. And yeah, that's not happening.
Okay. So the grappler kind of just goes short, and instead I rolled really high on a luck die for you. It kind of it swoops through the air and hits one of them in the head, actually.
Nice.
So just roll me a d6 and give me damage.
I max rolled on the 6.
Okay. Yeah, you do 6 points of damage to this thing as it gets clocked in the head by the grappler.
Excellent.
You look really cool.
Yeah, but really clumsy at the same time. But maybe it was like I was all planned all along.
I meant to do that.
I wasn't
All
trying to
according-
run away.
All according to Keikaku.
Okay.
If anyone gets that reference.
All according to what?
All according to Keikaku. If anyone gets that reference, you get a cookie.
I don't know what that is. I'm sorry.
It's a meme from an anime called Steins Gate.
Steins Gate. All right, Darius, your turn.
Okay.
Sebastian, you can use your movement to get out of the dog pile for the most part.
Yeah, I'll do that.
So you just kind of splash to the water. I mean, maybe you get like 2 of them to focus on you, but the rest of them, yeah. Okay, cool. Okay, Darius.
What he does is he maybe tries to find a boulder or some kind of large rock, and basically he's going to try and sort of get himself onto it, and basically sort of moving into the pile to maybe draw attention to himself away from his allies. And he's going to draw his blade, and he's going to sort of in a practice manner, he's going to hold it close to his side and just use his entire body weight, just thrust down into one of them. And I make an attack. And okay then, godly rolls still. 21 to hit, maybe?
Yeah, that would definitely hit, totally.
Oh, right, AC 12. That would be 1d8 damage. What's... that's... 10 damage. Actually, no. I have the duel feature, so that would be... Right. Is it +2 or +3 for dueling?
+2, so it'd be 12 damage.
+2. That would be 12 damage.
Yeah, you mincemeat this thing's arm, and it just kind of falls off of its body, and it just kind of like looks down at it and looks back up at you. The sleepers. 2 of them rush you, Darius. One of which hits for 6 points of damage. Its claw, like you see its long fingernails, just scrape you across the face. 4 of them are going to pile onto Ithar in the middle. one of which hits for 9 points of damage. Two of them are going to go for Sebastian, both of which hit.
Oh boy.
For 15 points of damage.
Ugh.
Oh, is that all?
Another two are going to rush at Brif, who just started attacking one of them. One of which hits for 7 points of damage. And then the last one turns and runs at Fulgrim. And what's your AC, Fulgrim? 16. It got a 16, so it hits.
I was gonna say I'm not actually wearing my chain now. I've taken it off to move sideways.
Oh, that's
so it's
right.
like-
Okay, so it's lower. So that's going to be, well, either way, I guess it hits still. So that's 5 points of damage to you.
Cool.
There's an explosion in the water as they start just swinging their claws and biting at you. Emrin kind of just like steps away a bit, and you see him reach down. I mean, he's backing away from the fight, like he wants nothing to do with it. But you see him kind of like pause as he feels something in his tunic, and he pulls out the dagger that Darius threw at him. And he looks at it, and he looks down at the royal of fighting. And he's going to run towards the one that you're attacking, Darius, and he's going to try and stab it with the dagger. And he's actually going to hit. Holy cow, that was actually a really good roll.
Impressive.
Okay, so he hits for 5. He jumps off of like the stairs and just like slams it into the top of this thing's head, and he actually kills it.
Awesome. And yeah, sort of briefly, just Darius just stares in disbelief as this scholar just brutalizes one of these things.
He goes down in the water with it. He obviously didn't take his momentum into account. All right, Fulgrim, your turn.
Raising his warhammer, he'd shout out to the room, Hrondor is with me, and just slam down at this creature, and missing epically. Wasn't a 1, but apparently he's not with me anymore.
Nope.
He gave all his juice earlier for the Thunderwave.
Well, I mean, I like the sentiments at least.
Yeah, at least I tried.
I gave this random priest guy enough blessings before he can handle himself.
All right, next up then is Brif, back to the top of the order.
So I imagine that the one that hit me was the same one I got a nice slash across the chest with. And so I just kind of look at this guy, taking a experienced, if not kind of playful stance with my swords, and go in to hit him again. And nat 20 on one
Nat 20? Dude, nice. Okay, so go ahead and roll me with a nat 20. Roll your damage, add your modifier, double it.
All right. Points of damage then.
How many points? You say
10.
10?
Roll
Okay.
damage, roll damage, add mod, double.
And you still have your offhand attack, right?
That was my offhand
what?
attack.
Oh, that was your offhand attack. Okay, cool. Yeah, this thing is barely standing, but it is definitely on the verge of dying. Okay. Let me see. Ithar. She is going to attack twice. And hit once for 8 points of damage to one of them that dogpiled onto her. She just kind of like brings her greatsword up and kind of shoves it away before cutting down across its chest. Next up, Sebastian.
So I imagine what happened to Sebastian is when he was trying to escape with the grappler, he hooks it like one of the sleepers in the head and then just tries to basically run, inadvertently forgetting that he's connected to this grappler, and pulls it towards him. And as he's kind of running away, he forgot this. And I don't really watch sports, but in like football, when a guy gets tackled by the same person, two people at the same time, like one hits their legs and then one hits their upper torso and kind of like sandwiches them. I imagine that's what happens to like Sebastian, and he just hits the ground super hard, blacking out momentarily. He kind of just hears the sounds of wailing and screaming and looks around as his comrades are fighting. These two sleepers, these eyeless creatures, are hovering above him. If they hit him, he's definitely out. So he has to... I imagine what he's going to try to do. I don't know if you're going to let it happen, Kai, but he's going to reach into his vials, his alchemist pouch, and he grabs one that looks almost like a what is it called? The little hourglasses that have snow in it, and you shake them, and I can't even remember the name of them, but like a little hourglass of that snow globe. And what he's going to do is basically throw this at their feet, and it's going to be an ice elemental vial. And what I kind of want to do is maybe not forgo the damage, but freeze their feet to the ice so that I can scoot away and put some distance between myself.
Yeah, that's totally fine. It'll work.
All right, so I'll do that, and I just break this glass right at their feet, and you just see the water instantly start to turn to ice. And as I start to push myself away, all like kind of backing, like prone, I squirm away, and they go to move forward, but their feet are frozen in the ice.
Cool. Yeah, so I'm gonna hold here and make them make a check, which they fail. Yeah, they get frozen to the ground. Kind of this water just freezes around their ankles.
And I did my con save at the beginning of my turn, so I was allowed to actually act that time for the record. And I'll just full movement to get away from them.
Yeah, you managed to freeze two of them to the ground.
Perfect.
Okay. Next up then is Darius.
All right. Darius, what he would like to do is he looks over to Sebastian and just sees that he's being towered over by these creatures, sees that he breaks the vial open and just freezes into the ground. A bit of a green comes over and he decides to maybe go over, maybe attack them or finish them off, but he just instantly feels this just piercing pain in his side as for the first time tonight, I don't roll my good con save, and I am pretty much rendered immobile just by these rips just sticking into my flesh from the inside out. And just the only thing I'm really gonna do is try to hobble away from things that are trying to attack me at the moment.
Yeah, you step back a little bit as this one that is attacking you dies. The other one is kind of focused on Emran right now, so it doesn't attack you. But yeah, you stumble away a bit. The sleepers. Two on Brif, one hits. Take 6 points of damage. And let me see, who else? Oh, there's one on Fulgrim who attacks and misses. Okay, that's it for them. Emran. Emran kind of just he just barely staggers away from this attack. It barely misses him, kind of scraping across the front of his robe, tearing it open. And he just jumps forward with the dagger and stabs at it. And hits again. Holy freaking... he doesn't have any modifiers to combat, so the fact that he's actually hitting is kind of crazy.
He's just subclass fighter.
Yeah, so he gets 3 damage off on this thing as he stabs it right in the sternum. Okay. All right. Yeah, Emran OP. Next up, Fulgrim.
I think just want to take another swing at this thing, just this time hoping that his damn god is with him this time. And with an 18, that he might just be. So.
Yeah, that definitely hits.
Right. He takes 9 damage and a hammer to the face. Assuming he's still alive, yeah.
Yeah, he's barely still standing. You hear bone and jaw crunch against this hit.
Damn. Oh. Fulgrim's just standing there with just a grin on his face, which looks terrifying to everyone else with the extra, like, cheek missing.
Yeah, he looks like a Two-Face. Yeah, so it kind of stumbles away from you. Brif, your turn.
So, looking at something here. I'm going to forego my second attack to do a second wind. So, actually be. Alright, let me add my new hit points to my damage. Alright. Yeah, then I'm going to try and finish off this enemy. Deal 7 points of damage.
And that will finish off yours.
Alright. I imagine then I'm just kind of standing there, just brace myself, stand up, like this guy's getting me, and just swing and just straight up his body. Some loose pieces of flesh from it as it falls back.
Yeah, it collapses in a heap as you basically cut it from navel to sternum, splitting it almost completely in half. All right, Ithar. As she kind of looks at the two that are like standing on either side of her, you see her whisper something, and her blade explodes in gray light, and she's going to attack one of them and definitely hit with a nat 20. And that is going to be oh geez. 11 plus 3, 14 plus 7, 21. 42 points of damage. She hits this thing, and this gray light like explodes, and the body basically is just turned to ash as this gray radiant light just basically incinerates it. And then she turns with a sweep and attacks the other one that's standing on the other side and hits, dealing 6 points of damage. Okay, there are 5 of these things left. Sebastian.
All right, so as Sebastian's kind of putting some distance between him, he's looking at these sleepers that are inevitably going to make their way out of this ice. The grappler, can you explain it to me? Is it like a whip with a hook at the end of it, basically?
So, have you ever played Skyrim?
Yeah.
You know the Dragon Claw, the very first quest?
Okay.
It looks like that, but you put it on the end of like a rope.
Okay.
So it's got like long claws on the end that hook onto stuff so you can pull.
So, what I want to do is, I'll see if you're cool with it. I'm kind of going outside of the box here, so hopefully it's not too weird. But I want to take one of my pythons and kind of slam it into the ground or whatever, and then basically, or even into the wall, and create like a trip rope with this grappler, so that when they come inevitably running at me, they hopefully, since they don't use their eyes to see, will trip over it and kind of land prone. So I don't know if you want me to make a check or anything.
Go ahead and roll me a sleight of hand to set up this trap.
All right, sounds good. 16.
Yeah, that sets up the trap. You can
So I
you
kind
slam
of-
the python into the wall and wrap the rope and. Okay.
And then I kind of like put this rope about foot length, and then I look at them as they're inches away from breaking out of my ice, and I'm just like, deep breathing heavily. All right, you sons of bitches, come and get me. And I just position myself perfectly far enough away so that when they see me, but when they slip and fall, they're kind of in, hopefully by next turn, hitting distance.
Okay.
And
Yeah,
then
perfect.
as a bonus action, can I use my healing draft to give myself a little bit of those juicy heals? Or does that count as a full action?
I guess you can use your healing draft.
Oh, senpai, thank you. I rolled a
Yes,
whopping
yes,
I rolled a whopping 1 healing point.
Whoa. That's huge. That's intense.
Look at you, man.
That's all, boys. My class is OP.
Top of shape of all of us.
Dude, those artificers, man.
Clearly.
Okay. Let me see. That was Sebastian, Darius.
Okay, to confirm, Emran stabbed the second one that engaged me. Who is still in combat currently? I know Sebastian is currently luring his 2 over to the trap, but otherwise, who's fighting?
So Ithar is locked with 1, Brif is locked with 1, and then Fulgrim and Emran are locked with 1.
Okay. So basically what I decided to do is barely making my con save. I get up off the rock I was positioned on, and what I try to do is I sort of trudge through the water and go to one of the ones that's sort of trapped in ice currently. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and reach around and sort of position my sort of big meaty hand over this thing's mouth and try to stab it in the back silently so the other one doesn't notice.
Okay, roll me. Jeez, how do I do this? Okay, roll me an attack, and then roll me stealth afterwards.
Okay. Attack roll. Natural 20.
Okay, cool. And now roll me stealth.
Stealth. Modified 19.
Okay, you are very silent. You are silent as death. Go ahead and roll me damage. 1d8
Alrighty.
plus your modifier doubled.
That is 6 plus 3. With dueling, that is 11, 22.
That would instantly kill it because they have 22 hit points.
Okay, yeah. And I just imagine I position my arm sort of over this thing's mouth, just halting the screech, and just I stab through, and just it goes through all these vital organs, just the heart, if it still has one, that is, and it just kind of pierces through the neck like this.
Yeah, you go up along its spine and out of its mouth. The sleepers. The one didn't hear you. So it's going to rush you, Sebastian. And it is definitely going to trip over this rope and just face plant it on the ground. The one that's locked with Fulgrim and Emran is going to attack Fulgrim and definitely hit for 12 points of damage.
That was me.
Yeah.
Owie.
The other one is going to attack you, Brif, and miss. And then the last one will attack Ithar and hit for, oh, wow, that's max damage. 15 points of damage. Yeah, Ithar kind of staggers as this thing basically just grabs her and bites down on her arm. Just these thick, rotting teeth in its mouth. Okay, Emran, he is going to stab this thing that just bit you, Fulgrim. And this time he misses. He goes to stab it, and the thing kind of just sways, and he just stumbles past it and falls into the water. Fulgrim.
Just gasping from the pain of it, like the claws digging into him. He'll just swing reflectively out towards this thing with a nat 20. Are we doing crits again?
Yeah, so roll. You're using Warhammer, right?
Yeah.
So roll D8, add your modifier, double. But you're probably going to kill it. It'll hit 8 hit points. So how do you kill this
10
thing?
damage.
10 in
My
damage?
crit.
Did you get Nice.
10 fucking-
Impressive crit.
Well, it kills it, so
Oh, jeez. That,
Yeah, it's
that,
the
that would
same
have been
amount I
max
did last
damage
time.
just on a normal, like, damage die.
what, you rolled a 3, got 2 modifier, and then doubled? Nice. So how do you kill this?
I imagine just the end of the hammer just hooks underneath its jaw, lifting it well off the ground and flying down into the like where everyone else is it's fighting with a splash into the water.
Yeah, you hear a sickening crunch, and its cry is just cut off as you basically smash its vocal cords at the same time.
Mm.
Brif.
Alright, so I imagine, I just took down one of them as the other comes at me, and I, use my extra sword that I use attack to kind of push it aside as I then go in to try and take this one down. So, yay! 2 hits for the first time.
Ever with your short swords,
Long swords.
long swords. Use sword good.
So, sword, very good. Alright, so that's going to be 16 points of damage as I slice into this thing.
And that is enough to kill it.
So I imagine just one blow, disables this thing, second blow, straight down, finishing it off.
Okay, yeah, it just collapses basically onto your blade, piercing it through the skull. Ithar is going to try and deal with her last one. And hit twice, so that's probably dead. Oh yeah, that's definitely dead. That's like 20 damage. Okay, that leaves one more, which is currently lying in front of Sebastian on the ground. Sebastian, it's your turn. It is
I already
prone.
rolled-
You have advantage.
I already rolled my con save, rolled a 19 plus my con, so I made it. Rolling at advantage, that is a 18 plus my modifier, so probably a hit, I'm assuming.
Oh, definitely hit, yeah.
And then for damage, quarterstaff is a D8 two-handed.
Yeah, D8 plus, is it strength or dex?
I think strength. So
Or is it
I
versatile?
I believe it's a yeah, I think it's one of the versatile weapons. It counts
I
as a
think
monk weapon, so I'm not entirely sure.
I'm pretty sure it's versatile, so do strength or dex.
all right. So in that case,
Or dex. So I think it's a strength one, unless you're a monk, which
Yeah,
can use dex with their stuff. So it's,
Okay, well, we'll just count it as strength then, so go ahead.
a whopping in that case 5 damage if they don't have a modifier.
Yeah, you beat this thing on the back of the head, and it's like, and its head hits the ground one more time as you hit it.
Yep.
Okay, Darius.
Okay, and as he does so, as he just dazes this thing and just slams his head into the ground, I barely make my con save with a 10. I approach this thing from behind, sort of trudging through the mud, forgoing stealth this time, and just, if I would take my sword in both hands, but I can't. So I just sort of lower my knees as I just decide to slam my sword down onto this thing's back.
You have advantage.
Advantage it is. That would be a 13 to hit.
And that just barely hits.
Yeah. Thank you, advantage. That would be 11 damage. Actually, no, 12 damage. 12 damage.
How do you kill it?
Like I said, I just slam my sword down onto it, and I imagine just I go through the spine, and just the sensory shock just makes this thing, just entire body just start wriggling like a caught fish, and just eventually just overwhelms the nervous system. As functioning as it is, just heart collapses from the strain of it. So
And
it
the
isn't even
last-
the wound. So it isn't even the wound itself that's actually killing it. It's the shock of being hit in that particular area.
And the last sleeper dies.
Say hello
Sebastian,
to the long sleep.
say hello to the lungs. Sebastian, as you're standing over this body, with Darius kneeling on his back, I want you to roll me a perception check because you're looking down at this thing.
Yeah.
Darius too, if you want.
All right.
16.
12.
Okay, so 16. So you see it first. Around this thing's neck, you see like a golden medallion. This one's wearing like its clothing is still just as like worn and ragged and destroyed, but you can tell that its clothing was once lordly.
Kind of like drawn in by it. I almost like forget the scenery and kind of kneel down and would pull it off of this creature. Does it have
The
any-
gold, yeah, the gold medallion is so as you turn it over in your hand, you see that it's very finely etched, kind of inlaid with alternating diamonds, very small diamonds, and obsidian to make the crest of House Locke, that black sun with a white moon eclipsing it. And as you look at it, I want you to roll me Arcana.
Yeah, I'm good at that. 18.
You remember seeing something about these medallions like this, and as you kind of like turn it over, you see on the back of it a symbol, and you know it's the symbol of Old Kazrin. And as you kind of like turn it over in your hand, kind of looking at this thing, eyeing it, you know what it is with that Arcana check. This is what they call dragon forged metal, and it's said that these items were said to carry a trace of whatever dragon was used to forge it, and it feels very, very warm in your hand.
Very cool. I imagine I almost see the energy kind of emanating from it, and that's kind of how I put it together. Is it's actually like
Yeah, it's
glowing for me.
It's for the first time maybe ever. For the first time ever, I think you actually see the bleak around this thing. Kind of like black and red thunderstorm. It just seems to like glow inside of the heart of it, and you can see it somehow.
I'd be staring at it like whimsically or quizzically, and I imagine as I kind of like hold it up and just to Darius, do you see this?
And he looks at it as sort of tears the blade out of the corpse and sort of wipes off any sort of excess ichor that was on his sleeve. He looks at this medallion and I'm not even gonna attempt to roll an Arcana check. He'd pretty much just see a golden medallion. He has very little sense of magic in him. So he sees that it is finely inlaid, he sees that it is well crafted, but he doesn't see this glowing energy that Sebastian can pick up just naturally.
And you just hear me mumble under my breath, Dragon Forged. This is old.
And he sort of get a bit closer and inspect it, and he looks to you and goes, "You found it. You can decide what you want to do with it."
He would kind of like, for now, I'm going to pocket it. We'll find out what it does later, as we should be getting out of here. That was a lot of noise we just made.
Yeah, and even as you say that, you can hear the screaming pick up from within the keep. Ithar helps Emran to his feet. Come on, let's go. Hurry. The exit's just out there.
Absolutely.
And she sprints ahead of you guys around the corridor. You find yourselves... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, like before, Darius would sort of help Sebastian up if he needed it.
Yeah. He's pretty beat up.
So you guys find yourselves going down a set of stairs to water waiting at the very base of them. She quickly unfolds the boat, sets it in the water, and climbs in. She unfolds the pole and hands it to Brif. Says, everyone in quickly. As everybody piles into the boat and you push away from the quiet keeps, you can still hear the wailing in the distance. And for the next day, your travel is easy. Nothing out of the ordinary happens. A blessing, really. And eventually, as you emerge from the trees of the swamp, this drowned forest, you see there, on the edge of the bog, a city. RavenPort. It's larger than many cities you've seen, but definitely not as big as the capital of Talmor or Falhast. But there it is. You've made it. And there are no signs of the Reclaimers.
There would be an audible sigh of something, maybe relief, maybe just having held his breath for so long during the trip. Darius sort of just lays himself down on the boat and again looks down at his dead arm covered in the tatters of an old banner. He tries one last time, sort of vainly, just to move the fingers, and ends up seeing nothing. He gives up. And he looks to the others. He sees Sebastian, he sees Fulgrim and Brif. He sees Ithar and Emran, more weathered and experienced likely. And in his eyes, what he sees is he doesn't really see them. What he's seeing is what they can be. And he sort of gives himself an inward chuckle as he goes, these kids are going to catch up to me soon enough. Hope they end up better than I did. This is just a mutter. I doubt, unless you were specifically listening, I don't think anyone would hear.
I imagine Sebastian, pretty much the whole ride, once we get out of like the dangerous area, has the book that Ithar handed him, but he hasn't opened it. He's just looking at the cover. Does it have any kind of writing on it or any identification of what it is?
Yeah, written there. Which languages do you speak again?
Common. Let me see. Sorry. Common, Dwarvish, and Elvish.
Okay, that's right. I thought you spoke Elvish. Written there in a very old script of the elves. It says the Acts of Eros. And Eros was the brother of Asmundr, the first emperor, the immortal emperor of Khazren, the first lich of Khazren, the one who brought Khazren down. It appears to be some sort of study of his deeds, of who he was and what made him who he was.
Yeah, and he just has this book, and he has it on his lap, and he stares at it for, I imagine, hours. And as we see the horizon of RavenPort kind of like stand up on the boat, and I'm just like, Ithar, to gather her attention.
She would turn and look at you as she's kind of moving the rudder of the boat to get you guys to port.
She says, I'm sorry for what happened back there.
And she would look at you, and she would say, "You did the best that you could, as did everybody else. You performed admirably. I don't know what you're apologizing for. Or do you mean specifically in the room?"
I think you know what I mean. You said something to me there. You told me to figure out what I'm doing here and why I'm here. You said that I might not believe in myself, but they believe in me.
She wouldn't say anything to that. She would just nod. She just is staring at you like she knows.
I don't think that's the case. This is a mistake. Brif, can you honestly look me in the eyes after I shot you in the back on accident and downed you and almost killed you? Fulgrim, I almost got us killed in the Quiet Keeps by being clumsy. Darius, I almost pulled you in the swamps back in Dakta. I don't belong here. I'm not like you guys, and I'm sorry. And I know that you all will amount to something. You'll be a hero and you'll stand up for people, and maybe even Darius, you'll save some people, but that's not me. When we get to RavenPort, I'm done. I'm resigning.
And that is where we will end the session. So,
You better than us, man?
we are going to go to a cold close. In an unknown place, you see several figures gathering around what appears to be some sort of seeing pool, maybe like a dais of sorts. And showing is all of you in this boat. One of them looks up at she's a female with long brown hair, dressed head to toe in armor, and at her waist, she carries a large mace and a buckler on her back. And she looks up at a man who is standing watching the pool with a mask over his face. And the mask itself is shaped like that of an eagle, made of very finely carved wood, stained beautifully and painted. And the pool zooms in for a second on Sebastian, and we see flickering around him kind of black and red energy, and it kind of moves from person to person and then lands on Ithar, who seems to be shrouded in a gray light. The rest of you kind of have maybe like a bronzish yellow light. And Fulgrim kind of is crackling with white energy. She looks up at him. "Would you have him retrieved, my lord?" And he slowly nods and says, "The Inquisition has good use for men like him. Bring him back safely. Bring him back safely, Ramirna." And she nods, "As you command, my lord," and turns and strides from the hall. And that is where we'll end the session. All right, everybody. Session 3, The Quiet Keeps. I'm going to turn it over to these guys for their last thoughts. We'll start with Chris and end with Michael.
All right. Yeah, that was a lot of fun, intense. Hopefully everyone feels the same way, but that was epic cool, Tyler. I can't wait to see where it goes. I'm a little nervous. I'm a little nervous for Sebastian, but we'll see what the party has to say to him. And thanks for running the game, man. It was a lot of fun.
Thanks, homie. Passing over to Harry.
Oh, that was great. Those things, don't want to come across them again. No offense, but they were, terrifying. But yeah, it was great. Hopefully, Sebastian will continue being a Convoker, but we'll see. I'm sure Fulgrim will punch some sense into him. But yeah, can't wait for next session.
Awesome. Moving on to Kristinn.
I like how you clarified at the end there. But yeah, I had a heck of a good time. That was super tense right there. Lots of great moments from all the players here, and I can't wait for session 4.
Awesome. Passing it on to Michael.
I just found Brif's new summer house. But that was great. Those creatures were creepy, and there was some great suspense there last time. So that was fun. Good role play in there. And you did the chase well.
Awesome. As always, everybody, thanks for tuning in. For the next session is going to be titled The Arcane Inquisition. Hopefully you guys can all tune in. Thanks for watching, though. And that's it. As always, I hope you find yourselves in new games on a roll.